bargain for, though.
Switchblades and fistfights a daily concern.
Somebody thought it was cute to start it on fire. This gentleman said, don't you know we do what we want?
I might not be able to get him into Harvard, but I can give him some hope.
While she's more worried about her students' safety,
Each day it gets scarier.
a student threatens her life.
You need a bullet in your head. Released from a juvenile facility. He was so violent, and that scared me to death. Being suspended for beating up so many children, we didn't know what to do.
And we were getting more and more concerned.
What's up? His behavior, we could not control.
Miss Jackson, can you hear me?
The outcome that astonished us all.
I need some officers on these floors.
How did the first day of school turn tragic?
Shortly after I walked into my new school, a huge fight broke out among the girls. After things were quickly under control, I immediately called a meeting in the school's auditorium to introduce myself. I started listing as forcefully as I could my expectations for their behavior when all of a sudden, a girl way in the back of the auditorium, she stood up and she said, "Miss, why do you keep calling this a school? This is not a school." And the violence still was not subsiding. And we were getting more and more concerned.
Each day it gets scarier.
Somebody thought it was cute to start it on fire.
To the one day the kid said, "You need a bullet in your head." Just said to me was that I have a bullet with your name on it. I know guns are really accessible in this neighborhood, so I don't think that it's unreasonable that he can get his hand on a gun and shoot me. That was the first time that I woke up and said, "Linda, I don't know what you've done here, because your kids are going to be without a mother." And that scared me to death. Now, I really wasn't keen on non-violent assembly programs for a violent school. They came in, they showed a film. I don't know where they got this film from, but it was a true reenactment of the Columbine school shooting. So I'm sitting there along with my staff, and we're absolutely horrified and scared to death when I heard this outburst of laughter, and I was shocked. And I said, "You gotta talk to me about why you're laughing at something so horrific." And one of the girls in
One of the most dangerous schools.
violent assembly burst of laughter, and I was shocked. And I said, "You gotta talk to me about why you're laughing at something so horrific." And one of the girls in a sweet voice, she said, "Miss Wayman, do you really think that was something?" She said, "We see that every night on our block. That's nothing compared to what we see." I understood. I understood why there was so much violence. Because the kids were in a deep state of despair. They were so traumatized by their own lives, they could not even feel for others. I knew the only way to turn this school around was to love those children for who they were. You look great this morning, young people. I love to see you smiling. I love to see you happy. I want you to be happy today, tomorrow, and forever. And remember, young people, if nobody didn't tell you they loved you today, you remember I do, and I always will. But people would say to me, "How could you love children like that? Look at them." I had one particular student released from a juvenile facility that was assigned to my school my first year at Strawberry Mansion High School. He was so violent His behavior we could not control. After being suspended for beating up so many children, we didn't know what to do. So one day I said to him, I'm going to sign you up for a program.
Anthony, let's go. Anthony, let's go.
This is my first time ever playing quarterback. I feel good. I stepped up today.
He was our star football player, leading us to a winning record of 8-0.
They're just celebrating.
We're 10-0, 9-0. What are we? I think
We're undefeated.
Undefeated. First season ever. One day, while we were in conversation, he said, Mrs. Wayman, one day I'm going to the University of Pittsburgh. I said, have you ever been to the University of Pittsburgh? He said, no. I only saw it on television. As soon as I left my office, I called my counselor. I said, plan a trip to the University of Pittsburgh. She said, for how many students? I said, 1. He graduated this coming June, and he was honored with a leadership award.
55 out of 92 senior students have been accepted into college. But for some, that's not enough. They can't afford the deposit fees guaranteeing their place, like senior Christine Holland.
If I had the $550 to go to Philadelphia University, I would go.
You know, I might not be able to get him into Harvard, but I can give him some hope. And God, don't underestimate the power of hope, because when children have hope, they can succeed.
4 years later, she was given a full scholarship by Philadelphia University. And so Wayman whispers once again what she used to say to all the kids.
And remember, if nobody told you they loved you today, well, I do. And I always will.
I love you too.
People gonna tell you sometimes that you're nothing. People gonna tell you can't get up, and you're gonna say, yes, I can. And if nobody else expects for you to do so, I expect for you to do so. I just believe it's my calling. And I believe my whole life journey is for me to try to help them the best that I can. I truly believe that. When we are faced with unbelievable challenges, we must stop and ask ourselves, so what? Now what? What are we going to do about it? If you are standing in one spot, afraid about what would happen if you choose left over right, do yourself a favor. Do not worry about directional order. Just be sure to move. Move one step closer to fulfill that dream you have always had for yourself. Go get it. You got it. Because not taking a risk will only lead to regret. Time is ticking. Tick, tick, tick.
So I look at the comments. So we all know Eastside
One of the
High.
most dangerous schools in America.
Eastside High, the one on TV, played by Crazy Joe, which was Morgan Freeman, was a real story based on a real high school in America. And there's plenty of high schools like Eastside High played with, Crazy Joe throughout America. In the black, neighborhoods where these communities was once thriving, and they were redlined and neglected, and people just, turned into violence to survival. So I went into the comment section, and I was reading them, which I feel, and I read this guy's comment. He was like, I grew up in that area and remember it well. Strawberry Manson was one of the more deadly schools in Philly. And I got to thinking, so I did some more research. And I did some more research online. It was a bad school, but I know plenty of schools. Like that. He said the U.S. is not a country to bring up kids. Everything there is crazy. yes. So this is one of the reasons why, many reasons. I mean, this story is very close to the East Side High, and East Side High is based on a true story about another high school. But there are many and thousands of high schools like this throughout the United States. They don't show you that are in the inner city that's been neglected. Some schools don't have water. Some schools don't have clean water. I know schools that don't have air and AC. I've seen some. I've been in some. They didn't even have AC. Them hot and joking in there, or heat, or some of them didn't have books. Like in the inner cities, the city funds somehow never make it to those schools where there's predominantly black at to fund the school well. So those schools go neglected, people feel left out, and it just leads to all type of trauma. And there's been so much trauma that they lived through, trauma with their parents. Their parents came up in a different area where they was fighting for their own rights, etc., or neglected, redlining. Those things are passed down traumas because the people who were raised in that era has trauma, right? And then they go out and have kids, and then they raise those kids, and then now they are impacting the trauma and the upbringing that they only know, and the things they only know how to do into those kids. And then those kids go on that kids, and then the neighborhood, the society has its own trauma that it puts on people. So it's just a different thing, growing from the States, and all the stuff that you deal with. Even today, the politics is just out of control. But this is a real story. So it's many stories similar like this across the United States. And so is the story of East Side High, Crazy Joe, that's very popular. I know a lot of people watch that movie. If you don't know what that movie, just Google East Side High, and you'll probably see clips on it and probably refresh your memory. But this was a touching story.